Hey everybody, Alex Miller at Capnion here. I'd like to be super practical in this video and lay down a roadmap I think might be useful to somebody out there. Not just how to do a thing. I would like to cover the distance from a very prosaic problem you might have to a specific way of employing a number of cutting edge artificial techniques to solve it. And then a vaguely science fictional and, in my opinion, very interesting and exciting story about why this sort of thing in the long haul could be really transformative to how you run a large and diversified corporation. If you've been watching some of my other videos, this is the retrieval aided generation applied to your SharePoint Riser Corp story. And if you don't watch, I'm going to explain what all of that means. Who is this video for? If you watch finance news, AI is currently the top excuse for stock prices to go up. Not just at companies that are involved in AI, but companies that want to claim they might be able to do something useful with AI. And you always see people from large publicly traded companies saying, oh yeah, we're doing tons of AI. It's great. One of my most earnest theses I would like to put in your face over and over is AI is not really a thing. If you want to be successful about it, you have to say the word for sales and marketing, but don't do AI, do a specific thing. And I'm going to give you a specific thing you could do to make whoever it was from your company that went on Bloomberg TV look good. And I think it's just a sensible thing to do, and it's achievable, and it solves a problem people are tired of. And you can tell a pretty interesting story about it's maybe a big deal and cool and could really go someplace. So I'll start in a weird place. What is the textbook story in college about corporate mergers and acquisitions? When to do it, not to do it. And I know that's not really always what happens in the wild, the textbook story, but the textbook story is that you're a big corporation. You could conceivably buy a lot of other smaller corporations. How do you pick one? After you buy it, you might get some profits out of it, and that's nice. But that's kind of a plain issue. That's true of anything. The profits are very quantifiable. Part of the downside of buying another corporation is the management team has to do something with it and run it. And to just take a very simple example, if you're trying to become a holding company of pizza restaurants, small independent pizza restaurants, well, that's pretty easy where you have core expertise about how to run a small pizza restaurant. Hopefully when you buy your 100th small pizza restaurant, there's a lot that's the same as your previous 99. So there's not a lot of marginal pain for the management team keeping up with what am I going to do with this pizza restaurant. If one day you try to buy a nuclear power plant on the strength of your enormous success in pizza, maybe that was a bad choice. And this is the synergy term has a bad reputation, but this is it. You don't know anything about nuclear power plants. They're highly regulated. There's a lot that could go wrong. Both you could accidentally do something horrible and get in lots of trouble, and you could just get dinged by regulators into bankruptcy because you forgot to file forms because you don't actually know how to own a nuclear power company. So it's great to have diversity in things you own that you hope pays you money, but there's also a cost of diversity, and that, well, it just gets harder and harder for anybody to really competently keep track of what's supposed to be going on. And that's, I think, much more dangerous than it sounds and impactful. So enter the cliche, awful corporate SharePoint site. Everybody knows they have this problem, even if they don't articulate it in the manner I have articulated it here. You can have the people at the nuclear power plant write down, what have you guys been doing? Write down everything about running the nuclear power plant. I just got here from my pizza meeting. Tell me how to run the nuclear power plant. And it's a very sensible impulse. I think everybody that works in large organizations has been around something like this. It kind of just turns one problem into another a lot of the time, in that, well, now I have these mountains of documents about a nuclear power plant, and I was actually already working full time managing pizza restaurants. So there's a lot that's wholesome in like generating all this documentation, but then there's a lot of self sabotage in it. And these things often don't get used. I'd love to hear horror stories about, if this sounds familiar to anyone, I would love it if you shared with me, and maybe we can commiserate. Enter retrieval aided generation. I'm sorry, AI, I keep calling it aided, it's augmented. This is not new. I got some pushback on a previous video. It's not new in the artificial intelligence world. What is new is that more people are becoming aware of, maybe there's a best practice here and it's relevant to stuff that's going on at my company. And I hear more people talking about it. This is, once again, a way for combining different techniques, possibly including LLM, possibly including other different kinds of clustering, indexing, vector embedding, the one technology I spotlighted. Essentially, the story is, okay, you've got this mountain of a SharePoint site. I don't have time to read every document, figuring out what form I'm about to forget to file to get in trouble with the nuclear power plant regulator. Retrieval augmented generation is a great fit on this problem, because if I execute well in building my AI widget, I can say, hey, please skim all these documents and get the document that is relevant to XYZ issue and anything that involves filing paperwork, and please tell me anything along those lines that might have a deadline coming up in the next month. That's a lot to ask. That would be somewhat hard to achieve, but the point here is that the AI is sort of going to solve like what you might call a soft data quality problem for me, and that's going to help me sift through all this material and get me started. And once again, the one virtue of this retrievable augmented generation over directly using LLM as an expert is I'm not as likely to get hallucinated on. I'm going to get something with some provenance in it. It's going to tell me, hey, I read this particular document, and this is what I found in it. And then I can double check that document and make sure I know what I'm doing. So this is a technology that it solves two kind of interlinked problems, or you could call them different manifestations of the same problem. We've all seen this monster of a SharePoint site, and the kind of cliche monster of a SharePoint site is actually a shadow of a very important structural problem in organizing a large conglomerate, industrial organization. It's just challenging. The more stuff you have going on in your business, are the people at the top really able to exercise sensible command and control? And if they're not, you might be in trouble. Okay, so finally, what's this Rhizocorp idea? What if I had a lot of really good AI like this solving this problem? I now have a very significant competitive advantage, and it notably actually exists at the management layer. We talk a lot about AI as automating individual contributor tasks. This is a technology that enhances management, and it makes it a lot easier to have a larger conglomerate that is more diversified, which sounds great. And if you had a technology like this, you could conceivably push the boundaries in a way Wall Street, for example, might really like. When you're going on Bloomberg TV, of we are doing these things that we have been saying forever. We want to have this large diversified conglomerate, but now we can actually manage that diversity effectively. And this is something people have been trying to figure out implicitly for a really long time in various ways without success. So if this sounds interesting to you, I think there's really something here. Kind of all the pieces are there. I would think about it.